All right, I am ready for this topic. I am so ready for this topic, y'all. We're going to be getting into it momentarily. We're going to give people time to get in, but we're going to talk about this topic here. I just discovered this last night. I was on TikTok and oh my goodness. I mean, this kind of stuff we've been talking about. We've been trying to help people to prepare to get ready for this nonsense that we're seeing today. And it's happening. So we're going to get into it. We're going to give people let's give them about a little over a minute and we're going to begin, okay? We are going to get into it today. This is something else, y'all. This is something else. So go tell your friend, go tell your family or whatever, whoever is interested in this topic. We're gonna settle some things today. We're going to bring some clarity with some things here. And I'm looking forward to it. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for tuning in to this broadcast. Guys, I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I hope you're having a wonderful, looking forward to a wonderful week. And whatever you didn't get accomplished last week, don't worry about it. As long as you're alive and breathing or whatever, you got another chance. You got another opportunity to not only accomplish, but to excel, to go ahead, to go high. You know what I mean? And that is what we're all about here, is getting people optimized so that we can excel and advance. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're all about here. But we got to brush away all the ignorance and all the foolishness. We got to get rid of that out of our own personal lives first, and those who participate in it around us. We got to get rid of that, And so that's what we're all about here. Just from the top, number one, I'm so glad that you're here. If this is your first time, really appreciate it. I'm broadcasting live here from the sunny state of Arizona, where we are in a cooling period right now. It's 98 degrees today. But they're saying it's going to get hot again, hotter again. And, we'll see what happens, but it's a beautiful state, beautiful state. And, the summers are, they get hot. I ain't gonna lie to you, but when we get in our cooler months, it's totally beautiful. But anyway, first off, if you haven't been to our webpage, sombertree.com, this is our online store where we, sell herbs, natural products, things that are going to help you to live a healthy and well life. That's what we're all about here. So we're not just sitting here talking about things and people and negative stuff and black folks, you just need to do this, and black folks, you ain't doing that, and then black people, you ain't doing, no. See, you hear that part of it, but if you don't stick around and hear the whole story, you don't hear the solutions that we give. And we're giving solutions all the time. And most of the solutions that we're giving, you don't have to pay for them. It's just helping you to walk through some basic sense that you should have been born with. That's what we're about here on this platform. But anyway, I will take the opportunity to talk about the store we have, which is sombertree.com. And we're actually running a promo right now today. It was started yesterday, and it's going on to today. My wife and I, we have been not just together, but we have been happily married for 27 years and counting. And it's just a joy to be with somebody that is not just someone I'm not madly in love. I'm in love with, because I ain't mad. Okay. I got good sense about me. Okay. But someone that you really, truly love, but also, is your best friend. And to be with someone 27 years, and you listen to people all the time, they'll tell you, man, it doesn't even feel that way. And feel that long, but trust me, 27 years, trust me, but it's gone by so fast, and the stories that we have to tell, the experience that we have, just in our own lives. We are two of many people out here. We're not just talking about stuff. Okay. We've lived it. Okay. So when we talk about anything regarding history, or, when we're talking about current events or whatever, it's not coming from someone who just saw a headline and that's it. We have lived through stuff. We have various experiences that we use this platform to share those experiences with. So there is a level of wisdom that comes here. We're not boasting or saying that we have all wisdom, but we're just letting you know we ain't crazy, right? And so one of the things that, that prompted my wife and I, we looked at what was going on in our families. We had people who were leaving Earth before before we felt like before their time, because of health and wellness issues. So we said, you know what, enough is enough. Let's build something. And that's what we did. We built something called Samba Tree. And it's not just we just grabbing stuff off the shelves and saying, hey, they'll buy that. They'll buy anything. No. These are things that if you take the time and go through each one of these products, we're explaining to you many of the health benefits of each. We even built something called Samba University, where we're actually teaching you some of these things. And we have a current class that's going on right now that's absolutely free, where we're teaching you all the different parts of your brain. You can find that on our YouTube page, our Samba Tree YouTube page, where we're covering all of that. But if you take the time, we believe in 100% natural products, meaning that none of this other additive nonsense and stuff that they're putting in to make your skin more ashy, or that's not really GMO. I mean, that's really GMO, but they're telling you it's not, and all that stuff. We talk about all that stuff, and we offer alternatives to that. We have a list of different testimonies from people like you that have written to us and told us how much this has helped them in their health and in their wellness. That's what it's all about. So anybody comes to us and when they say, well, what kind of solutions you're bringing? Well, this is one part. This is just one slice of the solutions that we have brought to the table, along with many, many others as well. And what better person to do that with than with my wife, Nicole, is in the other room right now. And this is the kind of stuff that we've been producing here for a very long time. So make sure you check it out. Again, the website is sambatree.com. All right. So just wanted to get that out of the way. We're going to get right into it in this story here. So I'm on TikTok, right? And, I'm doing some things, rearranging some stuff. And by the way, we do have a TikTok page, believe it or not. It's just simply called Samba Journeys, and if you do a search, you'll find me there. Okay, so I've been kind of like off and on it, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna really give this thing a try. So if you're on TikTok, do a search for Samba Journeys, you'll find us on there. Okay, but I'm on Samba. So anyway, I'm on TikTok, and I see that there's this trend going on. All of a sudden, I'm seeing Black Scottish all of a sudden popping up all over the place. And I was like, okay, well, what happened now? Why are they trending, right? So I'm looking into this, and lo and behold, apparently there are people here in mostly based here in the United States, who have recently discovered that there are Black Scottish people. And like, this is something brand new. And they were like, oh my goodness, there's Black Scottish people. I didn't know. I didn't know that there were Black Scottish people here. Now I'm sitting up here like, how you not know that there are Black Scottish people? But Black people have been all over. Anybody who's literate and actually listens to other people in the diaspora, you're gonna know that there's Black people pretty much everywhere. I mean, that's not anything new. And so as I continue to intently listen to these individuals, many of them are saying, well, I didn't know because, again, our American education, here we go, put a check mark by that. They don't teach us these things. Well, this is what happens when you're relying too much on your public school teachers and you're not taking the initiative to learn other things, which is strange because the amount of pseudo history that comes from this particular group that I'm going to talk about, You would think they know quite a bit, don't they? They're claiming everything. Now, let me be clear here and tell you exactly where I'm coming from, who I am, the whole nine, okay? So that we're really, really clear here. Okay, so for me, before someone even gets started here, I am Black American, okay? When you go back through my lineage, it's Black American. We were born here. My parents were born here. My grandparents were born here. But if you continue to go back further and further, you will find that my lineage goes straight to the shorelines of South Carolina. All right. And what happened in South Carolina? South Carolina, there was something called Charlestown, where there was something called slavery. Right. And where did those slaves come from? Those slaves came from Africa, all right? Some of them by way of, through the Caribbean, because they were taking, you had Caribbeans, and you're going to hear some noise in the background because I'm downloading videos and I'm share with y'all. And some of them by way of the Caribbean, they came from Africa and then they went to the Caribbean and that's it, and then they came over here. And so we know this, all right? So most Black folks understand this. But you have this segment of people within Black culture, Black American culture, that refer to themselves today as FBA. But what I am going to talk about first is this group that's today has materialized as FBA. They're actually made up of a hodgepodge of different groups. Okay, so this isn't something necessarily that was started by, Tariq Nasheed. It didn't necessarily start with him, nor did it necessarily start with ADOS. This is a group that has found refuge under these 3-letter or 4-letter groups that are mostly based online. But I do want to stress to you that these groups do not in any way, shape, or form represent the totality of Black Americans. I want to get that very clear. But what they do is that when they're out here, they pretend as if they do. So I, for one, along with many others, and I'm noticing, and it's very encouraging, I'm seeing numbers of other Black Americans that are saying enough is enough. Let me get on social media. Let me get on whatever platform and make that very clear. This group does not represent us, period. Okay. So anyway, with that being said, let me just kind of summarize this group first. Then we're going to get into the Scotland stuff in a minute here. But for first, I want to make sure you understand who this group is, because many of you guys, thankfully, you are so far out of the loop, you don't even know nothing about this group, which is great. Okay. But I just want to bring some of y'all in so you do understand some of the basics of this. Okay. All right. So FBA, I had to write, this is my notes here. I always write stuff down. FBA is a catch-all group of Black Americans who believe in and create alternative histories aggressively. All right. Now I'm going to talk about that in a moment. The moment you disagree with their interpretation of the world, you are immediately labeled. And when I mean aggressively, I'm talking about this. For example, what typical cult behavior is, and I don't throw words around. Typical cult behavior, what they'll do is, if you are not part of this group, then we're going to immediately assign you a special or unique name. This is across the board. If you talk to anybody who has studied cults, this is standard procedure for cults. All right. Let me give you an example. Hebrews, oftentimes, people who identify as Hebrews, they will oftentimes say, if you are not, they are the ones that have all the knowledge, and they are the ones that will assign people who is and who ain't Hebrew, right? They will say, okay, the Puerto Ricans, okay, you're in us. You with us. The Caribbeans, okay, you're kind of with us. And this group, you're with us. But those other people, no, you ain't with us, right? So they have been given some authority to presume who is and who ain't in their group. And if you're not in their group, they have a special word for you. Typically, it's Edomite. They'll refer to you as an Edomite. When you get to this other group called, and I'm referring to them as nativists. In other words, they believe that they are native to this land, talking about United States or America. And they believe that they have always been here. They have never come over here from Africa or anybody anywhere else. They 110% came. They were always here. They always were here. Right. This group, if you are not from here, if they have determined that you are not from here, and what will happen is they will immediately assign you a name and they will call you a tether. And this is typically what they do. Now, let me stop because, usually when I'm going through some things, I don't like stopping, but I do from time to time. I'll do it because, like I said, thankfully I got my notes here before because one thing I don't want to do is waste anybody's time. I just want to hit it and keep it moving. Someone asked a question: can you trace any of your ancestors in Africa? Can I go to specific people? Absolutely not. But I can take a DNA test just like anybody else can. And what my DNA test tells me is that, yes, it confirms what I already know. I can trace my lineage all the way to those that were enslaved. Absolutely. I can also look at the practices, the cultural practices and traditions of my people. Okay. From when you look at things such as making grass baskets, for example, in South Carolina, that is a tradition that came from Africa. All right. From those that were in those parts of Africa, that came from them. I can also talk about some of the fruits and vegetables and stuff that was brought over here. These things were not indigenous to this land. I could also talk about the ring shout, for example. When we talk about the ring shout, when you see those old footage of black folks and they're doing this ring shout and they're going counterclockwise, what they're doing is they're actually following the counterclockwise movement of the Congo cosmogram. I can also talk about the church in Savannah. If you look at the church of Savannah, the first African Baptist church in Savannah, they used for their logo. This is an old church that was built all the way back when, way back when. If you look at their logo has the Congo cosmogram in it. If you look at the floors of that church, the slaves that were there, the African slaves, literally drilled holes, breathing holes in those floorboards that were in the shape of the Congo cosmogram. There was another gentleman who I forgot his name. I did a video of him. He actually was a potter. This is a black man. He was a potter in North Carolina, and his signature that he would put on the bottom of his pottery was a circle with an X. Okay, you can look this up. I have it it's somewhere in our videos here. He would do a circle with an X. That was the Congo cosmogram. Okay, so I mean, we could do this all day. All right, so there's enough tells within my culture that tells me that, yes, this confirms what I see in that DNA. All right. So there you go. Now, can I get in a plane and fly to the village and say that's my people? No, I can't do that. And I'm sure most of us as Black Americans, we can't either. We can also talk about how all throughout Central and South America, you have plenty of celebrations that are going on to this day where these people have been separated from the continent of Africa for generations, but yet they still do these celebrations where they are honoring their African ancestors. We have done many videos on this. But when I talk to the FBA crowd and I try to tell them this stuff, they say, no, we ain't got nothing to do with that. That's not our people. But all of a sudden now, I'm getting ahead of myself, but the people in Scotland are my cousins. Make it make sense. All right. So anyway, let's get back here. Like I said, again, we could do this all day. All right. So anyway, cult behavior. I already talked about that. I said, one thing about FBA is that this is not an organized group. It's not. This is not an organized group where they have monthly meetings. They operate on a hive mindset by jumping in on isolated infractions, mostly by Africans and Caribbeans, and magnify them as general consensus. For example, you have people like Phil Scott, for example. Phil Scott went from doing entertainment pieces and stuff like that to now all of a sudden everything's FBA this, and we is FBA. Everything's FBA now. And he will search high and low for any story at all where an African or a Caribbean has said something that maybe is unsavory or completely off and say, see, all of these Africans are this, all of these Africans are that. And this is the same Negro that just a couple of years ago was hawking tickets to get people to fly to Ethiopia. But see, people don't want to, they just selectively forget these things. But see, that grift was over with. I guess that wasn't making enough money. So now it's all Team FBA now. So anyway, get out of here. Then you got people like O'Shea Duke Jackson. Same thing. He's doing the same thing. And the irony of O'Shea Duke Jackson, he's saying all these derogatory things about Africans, but he lives in Uganda. He's literally a Black American person living in Uganda. Make it make sense. Then you got other people as well. So a lot of you are listening to these people who all you got to do is hit the rewind button just for a second. They were saying something completely different just a couple of years ago. So this is not something serious where they are really diving in deep and really honestly and truly want to know the history. No, it's just another phase. It's just another thing. Anyway, let's move on here. So they completely reject science, peer-reviewed studies, and other research that could easily prove or disprove their own theories in seconds. The only time they will acknowledge such resources is if a summarized conclusion agrees with them. In other words, a lot of these people, these individuals, they're illiterate. They don't read. They don't want to read. I have painstakingly have gone out of my way numerous times, and I will continue to do it. I would say, listen, do you not understand? You could take a whole book, an entire book, as long as it's like in a PDF format, you can upload it to platforms like ChatGPT and say, I want you to highlight all the claims that are in this book and give me page numbers. And then with those claims, I want you to put it on one column. On the other column, I want you to put in, tell me whether or not if these claims are factually true. If they're factually true, put a green check mark by it and tell me why. Give me sources that tell me why. If it's factually untrue, then do the same thing, but put a red X by it. You can do this stuff now. I tell people this all the time. I'm like, you can do this stuff. I mean, if you don't want to actually read the book, there's technology that will do it for you and will go through the whole thing with you just like that. But instead of doing that, people want to sit up here and elaborate and go through all of this stuff and make up all these alternative worldviews about everything. And they want to engage in hours and hours of debate and argument because they want a vibe culture. In other words, a culture where they just vibe in as they're just making things up. But that's not a culture. Anyway, move on. FBA is made up of and this is an important point, FBA is made up of various people who pretty much believe in any form of alternative history. FBA is what brings many of them together. This is what you got to understand. It's not just they're all huddled around the American flag. I mean, there are some that do that, but many of them, it's a catch. It's a catch-all, like I was saying earlier, of these different groups. Like I did a short recently where I talked about how you got some people who will say I'm FBA, but also I'm also a descendant of Atlantis. I showed you the video the other day. This one group of Black Americans, again, they do not represent all Black Americans, but this one group of Black Americans, I think it was either the end of May or the end of June in Stone Mountain, Georgia. And I know it was Stone Mountain, not because it just said there, because I actually was on top of Stone Mountain on my own when I lived there. But it was a large group of Black Americans that gathered on Stone Mountain in Georgia. And the same group identified, I showed you in that short, go back and watch that short. They identified with three different cultures. They identified with being Hebrew Israelites. They identified being Native Americans. Then they said they identify with people of Atlantis. This same group, they identify with three different people. This is what is going on. This is what's happening today. And that is an identity issue. That is like a multiple person disorder, or something, personality disorder or something like that. I mean, if this was years ago, people will look at this and be like, oh, snap, this is something we need to study because this is a disorder. This is a dysfunction here. But now it's okay. So I could talk to people online or whatever, and it's pretty normal. And I'm sure some of y'all that are watching, it's pretty normal for someone in the same breath will say, yes, I am a Hebrew and I am a descendant of the Sephardic Jews, but I'm indigenous to this land and I've never been anywhere else. So, and then going back to identifying with the Hebrews, you'll say that, yes, let me start from the top. I'm a Hebrew. I'm a descendant of the Sephardic Jews who came from Israel, but I am from here in the United States. I'm from here in the United States and I've never been anywhere else. My bloodline is here and in this land only. So how in the world can you be from two different places at one time? But yet it gets even more interesting. If you go all on TikTok, for example, you will find a cross of Hebrews and nativists and all of this. They are looking forward to a day where a black guy with a huge afro and fire eyes, y'all know what I'm talking about. They'll do all of these AI videos now where he's coming down in spaceships. So now we're the descendant of space aliens that come from Israel, that are Sephardic Jews, that are native to this land because we've never been anywhere else. But also we're the Moors too. I mean, it's maddening. It's maddening. And so this FBA crowd, if you will, I want you to understand, this is not just a singular crowd that has a singular origin story. This is a crowd that is made up of people, multiple people that have multiple, whatever it is that is popular at that moment. They just latch onto it and say, yep, that's us. And yes, I am from this land too. That's what you see in this group called FBA. So when you hear me talk about it, that's who I'm talking about. So again, I'm being very specific. I'm not saying all, because FBA does not represent all Black Americans. They don't. They do not represent all Black Americans. That's why when I'm responding to these people, I will always make that very clear. They do not represent us, period. Okay. And then the bottom line, the last thing is that, well, two more things here. They're united by their hatred towards African and Caribbeans. If you've been following this platform and other similar platforms, you will see that all the time. They will find those onesies and twosies of Africans that are out there that do say some very horrible and terrible things about Black Americans. And they'll say, see, all Africans think this way. See, all Caribbeans think this way. See, all of them think this way. They always will do that. And I'm saying, using that same logic, you could say the same thing about all Black people are criminals. All Black people, wear bonnets on their heads and all of that. You can use the same line, but they don't use that same logic. They only use it when it comes for Africans and Caribbeans. But it goes even further than that. There are many of their members that have gone out of their way to say that their culture, there's nothing in their culture that reflects Africa. This is where I have serious problems with. See, the other stuff we can kind of talk our way through and talk our way and maybe come to some whatever agreement on certain things. I have no problem in acknowledging, yes, you got some bad apples in African culture. I have no problem in acknowledging that. And it's something I've talked about. I have personally dealt with myself. I have no problem in acknowledging that. But what I do have a problem with is when I listen to a bunch of ashy, no reading Negroes that are out here that won't even bother to pick up a book. They won't even bother. The only person that they're talking to is their deranged grandmother. Yes, I'm going to say that. That one grandmother that you have that's like, yeah, well, I think we all Indians. And she tell you, there's one grandmother that tells you that you all Indian all of a sudden, that ignores all the other contributors to your genetic story. They never talk to the grandfather. You notice that. They literally never talk to the grandfather. It's always this one grandmother, and she's like, yeah, because they never taught us about Africa at all. Yeah, of course they didn't. What do you expect? You in slavery, what do you think they're going to tell you? Okay, now, before we whip your ass in the field, we're going to make sure we take some time and explain to you what tribe you actually came from. Okay, let's go through it together now. Before we go out in the field and pick that cotton, let's make sure we go through and explain to you your true Africanness. They're not going to teach you anything. What do you expect? So now what we have to do is that we have to sit back and say, okay, fast forward, what things can we identify in our culture? And you identify them. And then you cross-reference them with the culture. In other words, okay, Africa, you can I challenge people. I tell people all the time, you want to cross-reference it with Native Americans, do it. But you're going to come out on the losing end because once you cross-reference this stuff, you ain't going to see too much Native American in there. There's some, but you ain't going to see too much Native American in that. And yes, I have said, and I continue to say, even in my own bloodline, there is Native American there. I'm not in any denial of that. But I'm trying to get people to understand just how genetics work, just on a basic level. You guys will build a whole origin story based off of one person in your genetic tree, one person. And based off of that one person, that makes everybody now you 100% a Native American. I don't understand. Well, I do understand because we're dealing with, unfortunately, a segment within Black American culture that education has not been their strongest point, a real education. It just hasn't. And so now with social media and AI coming into the picture, they are even more reliant on other people telling them stuff. Picking up a book or exploring on your own. Well, I don't feel like doing that. You're using too many words. This video is too long. Just get to the point. So this is what we're dealing with. So anyway, so now in today's world, what we're dealing with, I got video clips and stuff I'm going to show you, but let me move these things off of my phone because I'm going to share with you some of the things that I have come across here. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to swipe all this stuff here because I got a lot for y'all. I got a whole lot for y'all. Hopefully this thing don't act up while we're online here. Here we go. Thank you, iPhone, for working. Okay. But anyway, so let me show you some of these things that I'm talking about here. So the latest trend and while that's cooking, the latest trend right now that's on TikTok is that you have these FBA members. Now that we've defined that and defined who they are, these FBA members have now suddenly discovered that there are Black people who live in Scotland. I mean, I was looking at this in shock, like, okay, why is this something new? And the responses that I've been getting from people is that they say, well, we've never seen them come across our timeline. Don't get mad at us because they don't come across our TikTok timeline. And I'm sitting up here like, okay, so in order for you to know that someone exists, they have to come across your TikTok timeline. Anybody that has understood the transatlantic slavery and took 2 seconds to read about the various roots of not just the transatlantic slavery, but also the Arab slave trade, you will know that there are Black folks literally in just about every country. Some countries have a lot, some have a little bit, but Black folks from Africa are pretty much everywhere. Okay, you can go back into the 1500s or whatever, and you will find that even back then, the few Black people that you saw showing up in those Byzantine paintings or whatever, they came from Africa. I mean, that's just what it is. But when you're listening to these people, these ass clowns on social media, that hate themselves and hate Africa, they always seem to leave that part out. But see, we're not going to do that. We're going to look at the whole thing. All right. So anyway, let's go here. Let me show you. Where should we begin here? All right. So I'm just going to bring up some stuff here and then we're going to keep on going here. Like, for example, this right here. These are the same people that will make stuff like you see here. All right. I'll bring that over here. They'll make stuff like this. a lot of this pseudo history nonsense where they just pull random images that they find on Pinterest or whatever. I've caught many instances where these images have been colorized. And like I said, again, I'm in no denial. You do have black skinned folks who lived in throughout Europe for many years. I'm not in denial of that. Did some of that blood touch royalty? Yeah. But to the degree that a lot of these people have been saying, no, absolutely not. But you do find traces of Africa and in many cultures, but it doesn't mean that we ruled them. But but if you listen to these other people, they will tell you that in every country we ruled everything. And that's not true. But this is the kind of literature and information that these individuals put out here. And this is the kind of stuff we use this platform to debunk a lot of that stuff as it comes through here. Here's another resource that's been passed around as well. One day we'll do a video just on this book alone. Negro Rulers of Scotland and the British Isles. Now, this is funny because these same Negroes that are out here today saying that I didn't know that Scottish people, you had black Scottish people. These are the same people that are putting out this kind of literature right here that you see in front of me. They're putting this same literature out that's proudly declaring that Negro rulers of Scotland and the British Isles. But if you actually take the time and go through the book, you will find out that a lot of it is pseudo. A lot of it is pseudo. There is one individual that they pretty much almost made the name up. And all you get to would take a few seconds and find, no, that name doesn't exist. But again, people look at this, they look at the title, they look at the book cover, they see, oh, see, that's original. You see how all these people were dark? See, therefore, they ruled everything. But then when you start digging in a little bit, you start finding, well, this actually was from something else. And no, I'm not in denial that the Moors were in Europe. I'm not in denial of that as well. But what I am saying is the accuracy. We should be we need to look for accuracy when we're talking about, even regardless of whose history it is. There are people, a lot of people I personally don't like. I'm talking about there's certain people groups out there that I just have too many problems with them. But one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to lie about their history and their culture. You know, I'm not doing that. Anyway, but if you listen, all you got to do is spend some time here on YouTube. You will find that there are many black people who have been in Scotland for years and have been telling their stories, you know, and I'm just putting some examples on the screen here, like right here. First look at Black and Scottish. This video has been out for 5 years. All right. So this ain't some new phenomena. That's one. Here's another one. Here's another video here. This video was done 11 months ago. Growing up in Scotland, cultural identity, racism, and finding. That's another one. Here's another one here. And I got some videos too that I'm going to be playing here in a moment because I want y'all to get the full picture of everything we're saying here. Growing up black in Scotland. This video was done 6 years ago. These white people in Scotland been telling their stories and they've been living their best life in their country. Here's one here, this guy here. Now he's Irish. This video was done 8 years ago. Yes, there are black people who are Irish that are there, but they share a common denominator. And I'll mention that in a moment. Here's another individual here. This video was done 6 years ago. I am Scottish and I am black. Notice the last name. All right. We could do this literally all day, y'all. Here's another one. Here's another one. Proudly Black and Scottish series. This video was done 2 years ago. She got her green dress on and all of that. Now here's one here. Oh my goodness, you better brace yourself here. You better brace yourself. I don't know if you can handle this or not. You better brace yourself. Here's a gentleman here. He is Scottish African. And look at what he's holding up. Oh my goodness, a DNA science. So he's actually using science to verify his own claims. Oh my goodness, this guy, he doesn't need, he's a tether. We're going to call him a tether. Oh my goodness, how dare he use his science? All right, let's move on. Here's another one here. This video was done black representation in Scotland. This was done 3 years ago. And here's another one here. I got one more. This one here, but there's plenty others. All you got to do is take a few minutes and look it up for yourself. Here's another one. Black Voices in Scottish documentary with Vanessa Canby. And again, this video was done 5 years ago. So you have black people who have been living in places like Scotland for a very long time. But if you listen to their own stories, like I have, they have no problems in telling you that most of them, either their parents or their grandparents, came there by way of Africa or the Caribbean. They ain't got no problem in telling it. And they'll still identify themselves as Scottish, but they, at the same breath, they'll say, yeah, my parents came from Africa. But that's a far cry from what we're hearing from the FBA crowd today, who will proudly say in our own record, you can't run from this now. It's saying that you have nothing to do with Africa. In fact, many of you will say that the transatlantic slave trade didn't even happen. Many of you have said that. You can't back from that now. You don't put it all on. The crime has already been committed, and you are the fool that recorded that crime and made and posted it for the world to see. You said that. And many of you have repeated, what was his name, Dane Calloway? You repeated that nonsense saying, well, where the ships at? If the transatlantic slave trade happened, where the ships at? And then you try to explain to people, okay, these were wooden ships. Slavery was outlawed. Everything I'm telling you right now is all on record. When it was outlawed, these people were destroying the evidence. When you commit a crime, first thing you're going to do? You're going to destroy the evidence. They did find a remnants of a slave ship. I think it was the Cotilla down in Alabama somewhere. And you could see the burnt charred marks all on it because they were trying to burn away the evidence. But yes, slave ships did exist. Wood ships, when you read about wood ships, like I have, again, when you read about those tall ships back in the day, we're fortunate enough to have the ones that we still have today because they took great care of them. But wood ships, it was very common back then for those things. They had to put a lot of labor into those ships because the exposure to the ocean, the seawater, which has a lot of salt and all of that, it always was falling apart. So they always had to replace planks and stuff. That's normal. But if you're in a trade that later becomes outlawed, you're not going to keep, well, we got to make sure we preserve this. You ain't trying to do that. But again, when you try to explain people this very simple history, all you got to do is pick up a freaking book. It will tell you that. They don't want to hear it. Instead, they want to stay with their alternative, imaginative stories. But like I said, we don't do that here. Not on this platform, we don't. Okay. So anyway, moving on. So the Scottish black folks, the reaction that they have been giving has really been quite comical because they're like, we've been here, like I've been saying. And so here's one girl here. She is funny. I want you to take a listen to her reaction to all of this because this all happened within like a few days. And this one black woman who's Scottish, like her, many others, they said, man, I woke up one day and my TikTok is like blowing up. It's like all of a sudden we're like in the center of the universe. What the heck happened? And so here's one girl. I want you to listen to her reaction to all of this.
Why am I waking up on TikTok to find out that black Americans are only discovering that there are black Scottish people? And they're having like a bonding moment with the black Scottish people. Like they're a new fucking discovery. And they're like, oh, we didn't know you existed. smacks it, yeah, is their first generation African and Caribbean. No, but apart from that, I'm actually loving that they're discovering that there are a load of other black people around the world, okay? This was my dream, okay? Thank you for being locked in. When you're done with the Scottish, move on to the Black Irish next.
And there's many other videos like that too. There are many other, that's one, but there are many other videos like that too, where these Scottish folks, they're like, yeah, I don't know what y'all talking about. We've been doing fine over here. And I don't, and the fact that y'all, and some of them actually took issue with the fact that they were like, you discovered us? I mean, you sounded like Columbus, like Columbus discovered America. But like I said, there are many other videos that I could show you on that of some of the reactions, and you can go on TikTok and you can find a lot of the reactions. Someone posted something here. Let me, I try to hit some of these comments as I see them in real time here. Let me get this. Someone posted here. This individual said, proof of slave ships. The ships were insured by Lloyd's of London, as some of the ledgers of the ships insured by in their archive. Yeah. I mean, you can't, and then, and to add to what this person's point is, you got some people saying, well, yeah, there was, when they say that slave trade didn't happen at all, I'm like, bruh, there's literally slave castles that are still all up and down the coast of West Africa that you can go to. These weren't amusement parks. Maybe for some people it was, but no, these were real slave castles. What do you think they were building them for? That thousands upon thousands of black Americans visit every day or every month or whatever. So this group is so wants to separate itself from its own identity that they're willing to deny the existence of history that literally you can put your hands on and touch. Now, what stems from this is, again, you do have people from the continent, you do have people in the Caribbean that, yes, have gone out of their way and have said some very unfortunate things about black folks, black Americans. There's no defense for that. I've said it many times. I've called it out myself and condemned it and all of that. So I have no problems with that because it happens, right? But to generalize and say all of them are like this, that's not true. It's simply not true at all. Just like I wouldn't say all black women are loud and all black women wear bonnets. And, the last person, if you're a man you want to marry, is don't marry a black woman, because I would never say anything like that, because none of that is true. I'm generalizing based off of a few bad apples in the bunch. And that's exactly what this clown group does when they're talking about Africans, when they're talking about Caribbeans and everywhere else. And they're so busy wanting to delineate themselves from everybody and everything that they, for some chance, they actually looked over the fact that there's black Scottish people, and again, they're living their best life over there. And so I've been on TikTok. I was like, please, y'all, leave these people alone. Leave them alone. Let them live their life. Please leave them alone. Anyway, let me go in here. Let me see what ZZ is saying here, and then I got a couple of videos I'm gonna play. They question where the ships went after the ports of after it left the ports of Africa. The majority of Africans supposedly were sent to Brazil. Exactly. A lot of Africans. You had Africans that went in Central America. There were places where they were ported there. They were dropped off there. You also had Africans that went down in South America, like places like Brazil. Again, if you follow our body of work, just us alone, there's many other people that have done a much better job than what we've done here. We've talked about these different ports and what was going on, the slavery, the intensity of the slavery that was going on towards Africans that were brought over there. It was worse than what was going on here in what today we call the United States. It was worse. The type of torture that they were doing. And the reason why the torture was more intense in places like that is because even though the United States was tolerant, if you will, of slavery, even they had some limitations on, how far they could take it. You know what I mean? But down there, it was horrible. But guess who had the lash? Guess who the people who actually had the lash in places like that? These were Jewish people. You had synagogues. There's a port down in Brazil. They say one of the largest synagogues in that region for years. There were so many Jews that were coming over from Spain and Portugal, going down there, and they were bringing these Africans over by the thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands. And they were forcing them a lot of times, to intermingle with the natives that were already here. But when you listen to the people who live in places like Brazil today, they'll tell you, yep, we're still African. We're African. We're African, but we have our unique culture here. It's the FBA crowd that will turn around and say, no, we have nothing to do with Africa. They will say, look at the hairline. Look at the hairline. Our hairlines are nothing like that. I got another video here. Where's that video here? And I just was playing this. Hold on for a second. This person here did a video. Oh, here we go. Check out this video. This is how much self-hatred that we have going on in the FBA crowd. Take a listen to this video here. Here it is.
I got a question for Black Americans that think they came from Africa. Okay, listen up. Have you ever seen an African from Africa over there with an afro and a beard? No, you haven't. You know why? Because we're not from Africa. You know what I'm saying? We're not from Africa. Their hair don't grow like ours. They don't grow beards. They don't. We don't know nothing about Africa. We don't know no people from Africa. Our lineage is descendants of Africa, but we from America.
No, you are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
It's getting out of control now. To sit up here and say this, looking like your name is Babatunde Olumide, is the greatest form of cognitive dissonance. To say we're not African, but our descendants are African. It hurts my brain. You guys are hurting my brain. My brain hurts. Do you know how delusional you have to be to come online bald and talk about an entire continent and say that they can't grow hair like us? Do you know how delusional you have to be? Like, the amount of videos that I'm seeing on my timeline every single day of Black Americans, a very small percentage of Black Americans coming online with this anti-African rhetoric that we're not African at all and we're indigenous to America, we've always been here. But to say that we're not African because African men, the whole billion of them, can't grow beards when we look like West Africans with beards. Every single photo I've had playing in the back of this video is someone from Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Congo, Cote d'Ivoire, and you're thinking that they can't grow beards? I have to bow out today. I between my comment section and the amount of videos I've had to make in the last 7 days, I just don't know anymore. I don't get it anymore. Like, how do you come online and say something based in pseudoscience so fucking crazy like that, and then you say it with your whole chest, then you post it online, and then you think, yeah, this is gonna get them. Africans don't, and you don't even have fucking hair. I gotta go, bro. I gotta go.
This is all part of the FBA DNA. This is the kind of stuff that they put out. And again, if you're just joining me, welcome. I would highly encourage you, before you start chiming in and wanting to defend FBA, go back and listen to how we have described your cult group. Okay? Your cult group does not represent all Black Americans. You represent you. That's you. That you don't speak for me. You don't speak for many, many other, and I would say the majority of Black Americans who don't repeat this nonsense. You are on your own with this foolishness, right? And so you got someone here, like, for example, someone that mentioned Claire. She says, hold on here, let me get this up here. They said Scottish are very welcoming. Yeah, that's good. Just like a lot of other cultures are. If you talk to the right people, many cultures are very welcoming. That's not just native to the Scottish people. But here's the thing. When you spread the foolishness that has been being spread, this is a cancer. This is a cancer that we're dealing with right now. Yes, FBA is a cancer to the rest of the African diaspora. It is. How are you going to be a member of the African diaspora when you are out here every day saying that you're not African, but yet you see a black Scottish person, now all of a sudden you calling them cousins and inviting them to the cookout? I'm not lying. I'm not exaggerating. Spend a few minutes on TikTok. You'll see it. They already doing that. He looked just like me. Oh man, their skin. Oh my goodness. Their skin is like ours. I'm not lying. And I'm sitting up here like, okay, well, maybe these are children, right? I was like, maybe these are kids. They don't know. Okay, maybe that's a kid. No, these are people older than me. I'm 54 years old. There's people older than me that are out here saying this. And I'm like, books, anything, basic internet, basic tier level internet, AOL. Did you get AOL? Did you have AOL? How about CompuServe? How about Atari? Did Atari, maybe CompuServe, get something? You didn't. And it's just, this is where we are today. Anyway, let's move on. There's, and so like a lot of things, like a lot of trends, they don't last long, do they? Well, now I just checked right before I came live here. It's starting to turn. What did we say was going to happen? So anyway, this is the turning point. Okay, so take a listen to this. This is 2 videos, okay? But there's more out there. I want you to take a listen.
Y'all look just like us. Ooh, I love 2 little hearts. What's happening, Trap? Hey, man. You know how we get when we see some people that look like us, man. We be accepting in the mud, you know. We're speaking on that. I'm talking about these black Scottish people. So, I don't know if y'all know it or not, but these black Scottish people are actually first generation Africans. And what us black Americans have to realize, we don't have no allies. Don't think because we have the same color skin that we have allies. Everybody has something against black Americans. And I'm gonna tell you what it is. They jealous of us. But let me prove this to you.
You know that the Scottish people are from Africa, all of them. There are no indigenous people in Scotland, not no indigenous melanated people in Scotland. They all are from Africa. This person has said it, and the last person that I spoke to has said it as well. They are all from Africa. They do not like melanated Americans. There is not one single person that was born in Scotland, from Scotland, or their family is from Scotland. Not one person. So, with that being said, I am going to exit left and move to the front of the bus. And you guys, do what you wish. But they don't like us either. And if you listen to their videos, they are calling some of us ignorant. And they are saying a lot of things about us. So since not one Scottish person that was from Scotland, that is indigenous to Scotland land, can say anything about what I'm saying, then I guess it's time to exit left. All right, Glenn. You can have it. We don't give a fuck.
It didn't last long, did it? I mean, grand opening, grand closing. Y'all went from calling them cousins to all of a sudden we don't give a you know what. Because the black Scottish, at least there's enough of them that's saying, oh no, we already know about you. We already know about you. No. You take that stuff over there. We good. We're good. Okay. We don't want this whole made up imaginative stuff that y'all been proliferating all over the internet. We don't have nothing to do with that. Nope. Just keep that over there. Keep that over there. We've been over here. But the thing is, we ain't, we're not over here claiming that we're the center of everybody's universe. And that's what we're saying here. Miss Greenberg, let me see what you're saying. You said PICTS. Can you tell me what that means? Tell me what that means. You said we're exported to the Americas and the Caribbean around 1600. Elaborate more, because you throwing me off with the Picts. Because I don't, like I said, I don't know everything either. But yeah, let me know what you mean by that. But yeah, anybody that has taken our history seriously, and I'm talking as black people here in this country, I'm talking about specifically here in the United States. Yes, our story, we are connected to the root, to the transatlantic slave trade. And there are, even though we are not physically in Africa, if you've listened to my platform, I've said over and over again, I'm not here to tell people to pack up and you need to go to Africa because America's falling apart. I'm not one of those people. I tell people all the time, hey, I think if you can visit Canada, if you can visit Mexico, if you can visit Hawaii, you should visit Africa. And it's nothing wrong with that. It's absolutely, positively nothing wrong with visiting Africa or any other country within Africa specifically. There's nothing wrong with that. You do what you do. What I do have an issue with a lot of times is when people are promoting Black Americans to relocate, to move there because of some fear of something coming apart here in America. I have an issue with that because a lot of times people will mix that in with with religion. They'll put the Bible in there and say that this is Africa is really the true land of Canaan and all of that stuff. I have issues with that because oftentimes what happens is that people will relocate to Africa or wherever, haven't done a whole lot of research. And then when they have a bad experience, now all of a sudden all of Africa is bad. Now all of a sudden we don't need to have anything to do with Africa because of your bad experience, because you didn't want to take the time to research and ask questions before you made that multi-$1,000 move over to the continent. You understand what I'm saying? That's the stuff I'm against. But all the time, I'm all pro 1,000% for Black people of all backgrounds to travel and to visit and to learn about each other's culture and all of that. Black folks all over are doing quite well. We do have shared experiences when it comes to areas like racism or whatever. But at the same time, there is momentum going on and has been going on, especially when you look at Blacks, let's say in Mexico, for example. On the west coast of Mexico, there's a couple of towns over there that are made up of a majority of Black Mexicans. And they have celebrations all the time, yearly annual celebrations where they celebrate their connection to Africa. All right. You can go even further going down into other countries, like in Colombia, for example. There's a village. They have a wall there and it has a lot of Congolese words all on it. They're very proud of this. But yet these ass clowns that call themselves FBA, if they see one, they just tried to pull off a whole boycott against African businesses. Like the African woman in Maryland who has the whole braiding shop. They said, we're going to boycott that. And then you had a couple of people went in there that may had a bad exchange or whatever. And they're all on TikTok saying, don't go here. This is why you need to don't mess with these people because they messing up with our hair and all this stuff. It's sad. And where does that stem from? It stems from people who hate themselves. It stems from a people who do not want to get real about the dysfunction within our own culture. I will be the first to tell you that Black history is something that you should be 1,000% proud of. I talk about it all the time, all the findings and different things, accurate findings. I'm not one of these Negroes where every little thing that you see, we invented the telephone, we invented the comb, we invented air, we invented water. We don't do that here, okay? There are real contributions that Black Americans have made to this country that should be celebrated, that should be recognized, that should be honored and all of that. But guess whose ultimate responsibility is to teach that information? It's not the public school system. It's your behind. It's your behind. And he's calling me. He's saying, this guy here talking about, I'm going to highlight him real quick. Yelp, you're a tether. Your name is Hank. If you think Hank... You want to know where the origin of the word Hank comes from? Yeah. Okay. It ain't African. That's for sure. Okay, Hank. Whatever you say, Hank. Okay. But anyway, so yeah. So our history is full of that, full of great things. But there's also a growing trend that's happening right now within Black culture of things that we do need to address. There are things that we do need to talk about, like what's going on. I'm going to do a separate video on this, on what's going on in D.C. Well, what I actually did, we actually talked about it. What's going on in Washington, D.C. We talked about the negative part of it, but we also talked about some of the opportunities that Black Americans who do own property in places like Washington, D.C. or Chicago or Philadelphia or wherever you're going to see this Trump train starts going through. There are many opportunities that Black Americans who actually own property in these places, you may be actually getting ready to see your property values go up. Why? Because of the crime that's there. All right. And a lot of times when you talk to these FBA people, they will, again, they love to edit history and say, well, the crime wasn't there until these tethers, what they call them, or these internationals came over. Then all of a sudden the crime went up. That is not true. You can go all the way back. This is why you need to listen to people who know what they're talking about. You go I challenge you. I welcome you. Watch the movie. What is it called? Watch the movie A Raisin in the Sun. The movie Raisin in the Sun, well, it's a stage play too. That's where it started from. The movie Raisin in the Sun it's featuring a Black American family, which, by the way, Sidney Poitier, he's not Black. He wasn't Black American. Okay, he was born in the islands, but yet a lot of Black Americans like to ride his, you know what, because because he's a Black actor. But when they find out he's from the islands, now all of a sudden now you feel some kind of way about him. All right. But anyway, here you got in this story, you had a Black American family who wanted to move away from their community. Right. And they were moving to a white community. That was the whole basis of it. It's called Black Flight. Look it up. It's called Black Flight. Do I need to look it up for you and put it on the screen? Let me put it on the screen. Black Flight for you so you can see what I'm talking about. Flight. Sorry. Black. And I did post on this, and people were still trying to argue it down. They still was trying to, even with me putting this up here, people were still trying to argue this down. It's called Black Flight. Look it up. This is something that has been studied. Black flight is a term applied to the migration of African Americans, or if you want to say Black Americans, you can say that too, from predominantly Black or mixed inner city areas in the United States to suburbs and newly constructed homes on the outer edges of cities. This is a trend that actually has been going on for many, many years. And what are these Black Americans fleeing from? They're fleeing from other Black Americans. Okay. Chris Rock he makes a joke out of it. Everybody laugh. It's funny. But when we having adult serious conversations and we're talking about it, people get mad and offended. This is why comedy is so at a premium within the Black community, because when it comes, everything has to be a joke. But this is a very serious thing. You got people who are dying. Okay, you got elders, Black elders that are afraid to go out of their home, not because of the Klan, but because of niggas who don't care about them. All right, you got children that cannot play outside because of ninjas that want to go off and start shooting everywhere. But you don't want to talk about that unless it's framed as, oh, they must be Jamaican. Oh, they must be from Africa. But this is the behavior that has been going on for years, even before there was an influx of immigrants coming to this country. It's been going on. It's been an issue. I lived through this. I lived through it. I lived in a predominantly black American community in North Philadelphia. Okay. It was predominant. There was no Jamaican sections. We didn't know anything about that. There was no African section of Philadelphia in those days. It was all black American. My family had a brand new vehicle stolen by a Negro. Okay. We've seen people's houses get broken in by other black folks. Okay. This is stuff that we witness all the time. I have video after video after video of black Americans today in Washington, D.C. saying, guess what? You know what? I don't really like Trump, but I'm so glad to now live in a city where I don't smell weed everywhere or I feel safe. See, this right here, if you want to get together and have a conversation, let's talk about that. Let's talk about how we can do our part to clean this up, to get rid of the ignorance, to get rid of the nonsense, to get rid of the BS, so that we can have a culture that, yes, we can share with other people and we can invite others in and all of that. Right now, when I listen to FBA people, the only thing they boast about is, you know what, everybody wants to be like us. Did I find that video here? Did I bring that video over here? It's another video that I have here. Literally, this woman is saying, oh, that's what it was. It's right here. Let me show this here. This one in the video, nah, they actually do like us. She's talking about the Scottish people. Nah, they actually do like us by way of dress and style. So the Scottish people, black Scottish wouldn't know how to dress and style unless they were looking at black Americans. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and lie and say that black Americans don't have any influence, because we do, right? But don't act like these people wouldn't know how to style their own selves if it wasn't for black Americans. Get that mess out of here. Look how many people liked her comment. No, they actually do like us by way of dress and style. They can't stand to admit that we've influenced the world. They've all been studying us all over the world, not the other way around, and they're mad. See, this is the turning point now. Now that they're finding that these Scottish people ain't clicking for them, now all of a sudden they're mad, and now this is what they're putting out. This is what FBA people are putting out now. And I'm gonna be specific. FBA, the cult, not black Americans. FBA, the cult. This is what they're putting out now. They're mad because now they're finding out that they are not the center of the universe. And let me look at this here. They said, your Unlimited Key said, crime stats about Chicago is kind of tricky. That is true. And we talked about that too. We actually did a video on that where we talked about that, where many of these gangs that you will find in places like Chicago are actually gangs that are come from South America. You got gangs Haitian gangs. You got gangs from other groups. That is true. And we have itemized and listed all of that out. But you also have black Americans who contribute to that culture. I'm not concerned or interested about those other groups. What I'm interested in is what we contribute to it and what we can do to say, let's pull our influence out of this and let them, and now it's all on them. Meanwhile, we're building schools. Meanwhile, we're building educational centers. Meanwhile, we're building hospitals. We're taking care of our elderly. Meanwhile, we're cleaning up our streets. We're focused on that. But I'm not going to sit up here and just ignore the contributions, the negative contributions of black Americans. I'm not going to ignore that. If I want to fix something, I got to be honest and look at the whole picture, not partial. You understand what I'm saying? This is true. Our recent live that we did, we talked about how Atlanta is one of the top 3 cities in the nation when it comes to human trafficking. When you look at the majority of the people who participate in the human trafficking in the city of Atlanta, they're black Americans. There's a church down there that is being reported. That's also part of that. We would be remiss not to bring these things up. But instead, you have this subculture that wants to ignore all of that and only make these claims that, are in La La Land, looking at the Mississippi River. I got a video on that. This girl looking at the Mississippi River, pointing at it. She's talking about, that's the real Nile. I'm telling you right now, that's the real Nile River. That not the one on the map. That's the real Nile right here. Egypt is here. This is Atlantis, don't you know? And you want to export that to Scotland? Leave these people alone. This insanity that we got going on right now, it needs to be addressed. It has to be addressed. And the people that want to down arrow this, I don't care. I'm a full man. I don't care. Okay. What I am here to do is encourage you to dig deeper and to grow up and start confronting this mess. We have to do it. You know, anyway, I'm wrapping up right here. Here's someone else here real quick. He said, I wish our group would just listen and clean up our act. I'm so tired. Everybody, a lot of people are tired. I'm tired of it. You know what I'm saying? I am tired. I am. And a lot of people are. But I'm not just going to stay tired. I'm going to do something. I'm going to use my voice. I'm going to use whatever tools that I have at my disposal. And I'm going to continue, like I've always been doing, investing. You know that old song, accentuate the positive? I'm going to keep doing that. There are many black men out here that are doing some positive things with other black people. You know what I mean? There are a lot of black women that are doing some positive things as well. They're doing some positive things. Let's focus on them. Let's build them up and make sure they stay on that track. But these other fools, they do have to be called out. They do have to be addressed. And we're not going to ignore and pretend that they don't exist. And when they cross a line and now they're infecting other things, then it's up to us as black Americans to say, nope. Come on back. Nope. We got a sane asylum right over here. Just get on over there. Don't infect these people. Leave these Scottish people alone. And I'm glad these Scottish people are starting to recognize that. But anyway, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I did want to jump on this because this is insane. It's totally insane of what we're seeing right now. And as I said before, unfortunately, it's going to get worse because you're dealing with a segment, not all black people, but a segment of folk, because they choose not to read, because they choose not to ask questions, because they don't have people in their lives to course correct them factually. They're going to continue to expand and get worse and continue to spread the nonsense. They're going to continue to do this over and over and over again. And platforms like TikTok, YouTube, whatever, is there to continue to spread their stuff. So anyway, with that being said, make sure you check out our platform. We have another YouTube channel. It's called The Black GPT, where we take what we just talked about just now and we condense it to like a few minutes. All right. So it's a platform I just started. So I got a few videos up there right now. We'll be adding some more this week. And we're going to continue to hit this kind of stuff here. And because it needs to happen. Cornelius, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. They said here, the Scottish thing is new to me. I've only heard of blacks are the real Vikings in that part of Europe. Yeah. Well, wait till you hear about the blacks that black Americans are the direct descendants of Atlantis. Make sure you don't tell Aquaman. Don't tell Aquaman that, because I think he will have something to say about it. Anyway, that's it. That's all I have for y'all. Thank you so much for tuning into this broadcast. Listen, you guys take care, and I will see you again soon. Take care, man.